If freedom failed. We'd like to take you on a visit to a town that doesn't exist. A town we call Springfield, USA. We'd like to show you how things would be in any American town if communism took over. This is the story of the law getting away with murder. It is entitled Trial and Terror.
All right.
Hello, Michael.
Well, Claire, this is a pleasant surprise. Come on in.
Thank you. The others haven't gotten here yet.
Others?
Yes, George Ketchell and Tom Denning are coming over.
What is this, some kind of a surprise party?
Well, I'd rather wait until the others get here and let George do the talking.
Oh, then this isn't a social call?
No, Michael, it isn't.
Well, I'm disappointed. I was tickled when I opened the door and saw you.
Well, I expect that's Tom and George now.
Oh, excuse me, I'll let him in.
Hello, Michael.
Hello, George. Hello, Tom.
Michael.
How are you? Come on in. Claire said you were coming.
Hello, Claire.
Hello, George. Hello, Tom.
Did you explain to Michael?
No, I left that to you.
Mind if we sit down?
No. Excuse me for not asking you. But you've got my curiosity up. What's all this about?
Well, we've been selected as a committee to ask you to take over as leader for the farm party.
What? Now, wait a minute. Do you know what you're asking me to do?
Yes, we're asking you.
You're asking me to commit suicide.
Michael, your father gave his life. Your brother gave his life. Are you afraid?
It's not a question of being afraid.
Well, then, what is it?
There's no chance to fight communistic dictatorship.
That's not what your father and your brother thought.
They proved my point with their lives.
Michael, you are afraid.
No. I just don't like to see a lot of people die unnecessarily, including me.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Well, that's the way I feel.
Good. In that case, you wouldn't want to see unnecessary famine and bloodshed.
Of course not.
Then it's up to you to take over as leader of the farm party.
Why?
Tell him, Tom.
Well, very reliable information from the grapevine informs us that since the Commies here in Springfield have come into power, they're planning on taking over the farmers.
It's the same pattern they've used in Bulgaria and other countries.
They're making plans to confiscate the farmers' land and reduce them to slave labor.
Are you sure?
Certainly. You don't suppose we'd go off half-cocked on a vital matter of this kind, do you?
The farmers aren't going to take it lying down.
What do they intend to do about it?
They've decided to resort to mass destruction of crops.
Well, that's mass suicide.
Sure.
Michael, you can stop it.
How?
Your father was leader of the farm party. Your brother followed in his footsteps. Well, Peter's at the head of the party will give the farmers a chance to win an election.
And the farm vote might be strong enough to win over the communist vote.
We want you to run for senator.
Michael, please. You have a good chance of being elected.
What assurance have I that I'll live that long?
None.
My father failed. My brother failed. They tried to fight communism.
It's up to you to take up where they left off.
Perhaps, but first I'm going to try another method.
Well, what other method is there?
Cooperation.
What? Are you kidding? You or Peter's cooperating with the commies?
Davies did, and today's lieutenant governor.
He's a traitor to the cause he fought for.
All right, so he's a traitor. But you don't think I'll turn traitor, do you? Well, do you?
No, Michael, I don't.
If I can gain power by cooperating, I can use that power to protect the farmers.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
Let's go.
Wait. Davies was a friend of my father, a friend of my brother. I know him. I can talk to him. Let me try.
Davies is a communist. You can't reason with communists.
But just let me try. If I find cooperation fails, I'll fight.
Sit down, Michael. Sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Davies.
Mr. Davies. Sounds funny coming from a Peters. Your father called me George. Your brother called me George, too. What was good enough for your father and your brother is certainly good enough for you.
Including a bullet?
Oh, come now, Michael. Certainly you don't think for one moment that I was in any way responsible for the death of your father or your brother.
They opposed you.
Your father was my friend. We fought for the same things.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I wanted you to know it.
In that case, you wouldn't hesitate to help me, would you?
Certainly not. I owe it to the memory of your father.
I've been asked to take over as leader for the farm vote.
Excellent, excellent.
The farmers are aware of the directives that are to be issued. If those directives are carried out, it will reduce the farmers to slave labor.
Those are the dictates of the party.
Well, it's taxation without representation. The farmers won't go for it. They demand an election, a chance for a voice in the assembly.
Frankly, I don't blame them.
Then you'll arrange an election?
Son, I'm only the lieutenant governor.
Well, let's face it, the governor is only a rubber stamp since the communists took over. You run things.
I'm afraid the governor wouldn't feel flattered if he heard you say that.
No, it's the truth. That's why it'll be smart for you to listen. If those directives are carried out, your position will be in danger.
My position will be in danger?
Well, yes, of course, because you have to answer for conditions. Conditions are going to be terrible if those directives are carried out.
Why?
The farmers have made plans for mass destruction of the crops. That means famine and bloodshed.
Really? Michael, my boy, you'll be rewarded for this.
Rewarded for what?
Warning me. Warning me in time. Giving me a chance to prevent the farmers from sabotaging the country.
Well, you can't stop them.
Why?
They've taken every precaution. The farmers are desperate, I tell you. If you make one move, the entire crop will be wiped out.
Oh, that's impossible.
Well, that's where you're wrong, all wrong. The plan has been carefully worked out. You don't have the manpower or the facilities to stop it.
But what'll I do?
Cooperate.
How?
Arrange a bipartisan election. An election in which the farmers are free to nominate and vote for the candidate they want.
Do you know what you're asking?
I'm asking you to protect yourself, your position. The farmers are desperate, I tell you.
All right. All right, I'll see to it the farmers get the election.
It will take an official announcement of the election to appease them.
Well, I'll see to it that the official announcement is published.
Thank you. Well, I'm anxious to give them the news. Goodbye.
Goodbye, son. Vega?
Yes, sir?
Did you get that?
Yes, sir. The whole thing was recorded.
Good. He's a bigger fool than his father or his brother.
Yeah. What are you going to do about the election?
Do? Farmers will have the election. The fools.
Well, let's get started. I've called this meeting of the campaign committee to make a final check on the arrangements for the election eve rally.
Why bother going to the trouble making a lot of elaborate arrangements? Let's face it, the whole thing will be broken up by the police.
Yes, George is right. The police have started riots and broken up practically all of our meetings.
That's right, Tom. The way things are going, it begins to look like we might run out of candidates.
Yeah. First they refuse to let us nominate candidates for the key executive positions. Then they make wholesale arrests of the candidates they did let us nominate.
I'm beginning to think these meetings are a bad idea from the standpoint of the people. Every time we hold a meeting, more of them get their heads in a sling as a result of being beat up by the police.
I warned you, Michael. Davy's idea of cooperation is coercion.
Now listen to me, all of you. Perhaps I've been a fool, but I did get the farmers the election. Sure, the police broke up our meetings and arrested some of us. But it's given the rest of us a chance to rekindle the hope for freedom in the hearts of a lot of people. A chance to speak the truth, which I don't have to tell you would have landed the whole lot of us in jail for treason, except for the fact that the commies evidently thought we were using their methods of buttering up the public with idle election promises. We not only reached the farmers, but the others who are anxious to break the stranglehold of communism. We're not going to stop now. We're going through with the rally and win the election.
people. This gathering here tonight proves that in spite of being terrorized by the minions of communism, the cry for freedom cannot be silenced. Cannot be silenced.
Please, Claire, please stop crying.
I can't.
Did Stambaugh mean so much to you?
No, but you do.
Me?
Yes, Michael. You're next.
Claire, you surprise me. You're frightened.
Yes, Michael, I'm horribly frightened.
I don't get it. I never saw you lose your nerve before. You were party secretary for my father and my brother. You didn't go to pieces like this when they were killed.
Well, that was different.
Why?
Their deaths were unexpected. But this agony of knowing you're next is awful. I can't stand the thought of seeing you sprawled out at a lit corpse.
Violent death is no stranger to you. Why this concern about my life?
Because I'm in love with you, Michael.
I'm sorry. Very sorry for you.
Why?
I can't offer you anything but the prospect of being a widow.
I know. But I had to tell you.
In a way, I'm glad you did. I saw it in your eyes, but I was afraid to recognize it, afraid I'd admit I love you.
But why be afraid to admit it?
Because you don't willingly risk the life of the person you love. If they find out I love you, they'll strike at me through you.
I'm not afraid, Michael.
I refuse to make you a target.
Michael, the reports indicate the turnout of voters for this election will set a new record.
Yes, but how many of them will get a chance to vote?
Hey, there's been riots reported in the 43rd District.
108th District reports scores of voters injured in rioting. 71st District reports riots in progress.
The police are doing everything in their power to keep the people from voting.
Yes. Thank God it'll all be over soon. It's almost time for the polls to close.
Michael, listen to this.
What is it?
Report just came in from the farm districts that the indications are that lines of voters blocks long won't get a chance to vote.
Why not?
The police are asking a lot of unnecessary questions to slow down the voting.
Well, we can be thankful for just one thing.
Oh? What's that?
That they didn't think of it sooner.
You are listening to Trial and Terror, a story of the way things could be if communism took over. A picture of what life would be like under a communist regime in an ordinary American town. A town we call Springfield, USA.
Farm vote carries 11th District.
Farm vote carries 63rd District.
Farm vote carries 192nd District.
The farm vote wins.
The farm vote wins in a landslide.
Well, Senator, here's your first official communique. You won't like it.
What is it?
You'd better read it for yourself.
This is to inform you that of this date. My, the dirty rat.
Easy, Michael.
I'll see about this.
What are you going to do?
Talk to David.
Michael, please! Be careful what you say.
Come in, Michael. Come in, sit down.
I want to talk to you about the order you issued to seize the farmers' crops.
Sit down, Michael. Take it easy. You'll live longer.
That's a threat, isn't it?
Yes, matter of fact, it is. I'm glad we understand each other.
You don't frighten me.
No? Would jail frighten you?
You can't arrest me. Or have you forgotten I'm a senator entitled by your own law to political immunity?
Oh, yes, you did win the election, didn't you? Did a fine job. You're a fine leader. Finer leader than your father was. Also a bigger fool.
If a fool can beat you and your party in an election, just what does that make you?
It was all part of my plan.
Sure. If you were satisfied to lose that election, you wouldn't have had the police fill the hospitals with victims of their beatings.
Those people just happened to be the victims of my squeeze play to save the crops. I pacified the farmers by letting them have an election.
Mm-hmm. Supposedly a free election. Instead, you refused to let us nominate candidates for a lot of key positions.
Of course. Never give a sucker an even break.
Every one of our candidates who was allowed to run won.
And what have you got? 117 votes in the Senate. Communists retained 233.
It's a moral victory for the farmers. And we have the power of killing a lot of measures that you could otherwise pass.
Granted. But have you considered the price they paid? The election was timed so that the farmers would have the crops harvested, ready for market, and easy to confiscate. Which is now being done.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it, Mr. Senator. Assembly isn't scheduled to convene in time to stop action on those directives. The farmers will be reduced to servants of communism.
Slaves, you mean?
Oh, no. Servants. The people serve communism.
There's still a chance that your plan will backfire.
Really?
Yes, the election proved one thing.
And what is that?
The desire for freedom isn't dead. It's taken a new lease on life. The people found out that they can fight communism. I'm one of those people. I'll fight communism. I'll use every fair means or foul to weed it out. Tear it out by the roots. And you can't stop me. I'm a senator. I have political immunity. I'll see you in the assembly.
Goodbye, Senator.
Michael, George, look over there in front of the Senate building.
Soldiers. There must be at least 50 of them.
Yes.
Well, what's the idea? You suppose they're going to try to keep us out of the assembly?
I don't know. But the only thing that'll stop me is a bullet.
No, Michael, please. Don't do anything that'll invite a bullet.
Clara's right, Michael. If the old adage is right about death always strikes 3 times. Be careful.
Your father was shot down approaching the Senate. Your brother was killed entering the building. Please be careful.
Come on. Let me do the talking.
Michael, if anything happens to you...
Whatever happens, remain impersonal. You're the recognized secretary of our party. If you betray your emotions for me, they'll strike at me through you.
Michael is right, Claire.
I'll remember. But, Michael, please.
Halt!
Be careful.
What's the idea? We're members of the Assembly. I'm Senator Peters. This is my party secretary.
Your identification.
Identification?
Yes.
Here it is.
Here's mine.
Here's mine.
Michael Peters. That checks. George Ketchel. Claire Brewster. You may enter.
I wonder what it's all about.
Well, I don't like it. There's something in the air.
Davies is here today. Perhaps he called out the militia to act as his bodyguard.
Yeah. The popular leader of the masses never goes anywhere without a strong bodyguard.
I just thought of something.
What?
It's good we got here early.
Why?
We need every single vote to block a bill from passing by a 2/3 majority.
That's right.
Let's get on the phone, make sure that all our members bring along proper identification.
Yes, that's a good idea.
There are public telephones over there.
Come on. What the devil? The phone is dead.
The telephones are temporarily disconnected.
What?
There's no outside telephone service.
Claire, you'd better go out and find a telephone.
Nobody is allowed to leave the building.
Claire, please try to calm down. You're so nervous, I doubt if you'll be able to transcribe legibly.
I tell you, there's something going on here that we don't know anything about, Michael. Aren't you nervous?
Naturally. The communist members of the Senate are thoroughly schooled in every phase of legislative procedure. Our members are green. It's going to put us at a considerable disadvantage.
I wonder if all our members are present. You can't tell from here.
So far, so good.
Are they all here?
Yes, I just checked in the last one.
Good.
Look, there's Davies.
Yes, he'll occupy the president's chair.
The Senate is now in session. Lieutenant Governor George Davies will preside.
Members of the Assembly, we're gathered here in the first joint session of the Communist Party and the newly elected members of the Farm Party. The first duty is to introduce the newly elected Speaker of the House for the Farm Party, Michael Peters, and to present his case as the first business of the day.
What did he say? Did I understand you to say my case?
The Assembly has been requested to take action on a court order charging you with conspiracy.
This is unconstitutional.
The court has asked for an authorization for your arrest.
As a senator, I'm entitled to political immunity.
Political immunity can be revoked by a majority vote of the Assembly after hearing the evidence.
Is this your method to eliminate the danger of the farm vote blocking the passage of measures presented before the Senate?
This is an action requested by a court order.
What are the charges?
Court charges Michael Peters with organizing terrorist activities to create famine and bloodshed by inciting farmers to engage in mass destruction of crops.
That's a lie.
Treason! Based on signed confessions made by fellow conspirators.
That's a lie. I never engaged in acts of treason.
Unfortunately for you, Michael Peters, the police take precautions to prove their accusations.
With confessions, no doubt. Confessions extracted by physical tortures or psychological tortures.
You have quite an imagination.
Not enough imagination to estimate the suffering some of the victims I know have experienced.
The police, however, do have confessions. But they were not extracted by torture, as you suggested. However, the bulk of the proof is in your own words.
That I would like to hear.
Since you're entitled to a fair hearing, you'll hear that proof. It has been prepared to present before the Assembly. If you will be seated, you and all the members of the Assembly will hear it introduced as evidence.
Oh, Michael, I knew something was going to happen.
Control yourself. Remember my warning about displaying emotions.
All right.
Michael, what's he trying to pull?
I don't know.
Members of the Assembly, you will now hear the first of two recordings. Yes, sit down, Michael. Sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Davies.
Mr. Davies? It sounds funny coming from a Peters.
I have been asked to take over as leader of the farm vote.
Excellent, excellent.
The farmers are aware of the directives that are to be issued. The farmers have made plans for mass destruction of the crops.
Michael, you'll be rewarded for warning me in time to prevent the farmers from sabotaging the country.
That record makes me sound like a traitor to the farmers.
You admit it's your voice?
Yes, it's my voice, but it's a trick. It's a trick to discredit me in the eyes of my party.
You admitted the voice we heard on that record was your voice. That'll be all. Be seated.
It's a trick. Yes, of course it's a trick. They make a tape recording of a conversation, then cut up the tape and reassemble it to give the conversation an entirely different meaning.
Oh, so that's how it's done.
But it almost fooled me, Michael. That's damaging evidence.
I realize that. Wonder what else he's got up his sleeve.
The second record will now be presented to the Assembly in evidence.
The people can fight communism. The plan has been carefully worked out. Mass destruction of crops. Famine can stop them. The farmers can have the power to kill. Weed out communism. Use every fair means, or foul. Tear out communism by the roots.
Let's get out of here.
It's no use. The place is surrounded.
Michael,
No,
hold
Claire,
me.
don't you
Oh,
understand?
of course I understand they're going to take you away.
I don't want the same thing to happen to you.
It doesn't matter. Nothing matters now.
Members of the Assembly, those in favor of revoking immunity, say yes! Arrest Michael Peters!
You have just heard a story of what can happen to a political leader under a communist regime. You think this could not happen? It did happen in the communist-dominated country of Bulgaria. It did happen to the leader of the agrarian party, Nicola Petrov. After being brutally tortured in an effort to get him to sign a confession admitting the false charges he was convicted on, Nicola Petrov, called the bravest Democrat of all, was hanged. You've been listening to If Freedom Failed, starring Stan Waxman as Michael Peters in Trial and Terror. Paul Frees was Davies, Lou Krugman was George, Byron Kane was Tom, and Janet Logan was Claire. Music was composed by Earl Lawrence, with musical direction by Michel Perrier. Trial and Terror was written for If Freedom Failed by Bill Tilak, produced and directed by Robert M. Young. Sergeant Lloyd Iyer speaking. This program has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.